OpenAI Codex can build real deployed money-making websites in just a few simple prompts, and almost nobody is talking about it. In this video, I will walk you through some website ideas that I've had Codex build using a prompt generator that formats the prompt specifically for Codex in order to ship clean code and polished websites on the first try. So let's get into it. All right, and then right off the bat, you will need some sort of ChatGPT subscription, plus at a very minimum, but I would recommend going with Pro because this is where you can make some really nice prompts for Codex if you use this Pro model that costs a minimum of $100 a month. But for what it can do, I think it's well worth it. You can get away with the $20 a month plan, but for the additional usage and what we're going to be doing today to generate this prompt, the $100 a month plan is going to be able to produce the best websites using this prompt generation workflow with Codex. All right, so here is the prompt that I have prompt engineered to create a prompt for Codex using ChatGPT Pro, and you'll see what I mean in a second here. So this prompt here says, I want you to build a simple website using Codex, act as a product strategist, UX designer, and senior full stack developer. Take this website and turn it into a clean copy and paste ready Codex prompt. And then you have your website idea here. I've already pre-filled this in. I want to do like a color palette website as an example. And the idea here is just build websites that you can potentially use as a revenue stream. If you get enough traffic to a website, you can apply for AdSense, put ads on it, and then see if you can make a little bit of extra revenue by just simply making a website using Codex. And then down here, we've got a few other things that I included just so that it makes a really nice structured and detailed prompt for full SEO setup, monetization plans. I wanted to include all of the different disclaimers, the trust, privacy, about pages, everything on there. And then this should be enough to get it to an MVP state. And for those of you that don't know what MVP is, that is minimum viable product, which means I want to get to a state where we can just launch it almost right off the bat with very minimal tweaking. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this here, and I've actually already run this test. So if we go back to ChatGPT here, I've actually already run this exact prompt. I pasted it in here, and I am using, this is where I think it's going to be very helpful to have that $100 a month subscription plan, is I'm using ChatGPT Pro with the extended thinking. And this extended thinking can take a long time. So you can see here, it thought for 4 minutes and 16 seconds and created this prompt that we'll go put into Codex. And I'll show you guys some basics how to use Codex as well. But it shot out this entire prompt here, and it is quite the prompt. You go ahead and scroll down here. It is a massive prompt, which is exactly what we want. We want it to build out the best possible website in almost one shot. So you can go ahead and copy this prompt. Like I said, I've already ran through this, but here is my example. And this is really quick. I'll just show you guys how to set up Codex. So once you have Codex installed and you have everything set up with your ChatGPT account and it's fully authorized, the first thing you want to do is go over to this projects area here, and you want to start a new project. However, the first thing you'll want to do before doing so is wherever you have your workspace, this is just a workspace area that I use, you want to make a new folder, and we're just going to call it test folder, just so you guys can see here. And then back in Codex, we would go to this little icon here and say start using an existing folder, and then go find that folder that we just created, test folder, select. Obviously you'd want to name it whatever your project is. And now you've got yourself a folder that Codex can work in, and it's going to be able to populate all those files. And the next thing you want to do is you want to turn on this auto review. If you do default permissions, it is just going to ask you over and over again, is this okay? Is this okay? It's kind of like if you're familiar with Claude Code. you have to accept the permissions like every pretty much 1 minute. You have to come back to it and be like, yeah, accept, yep. And in this case, I trust it to just work in this folder. So I'm going to use auto review so that it just fully is autonomous and works in the background. So I'm not going to run it in this area here. Like I said, I've already created this as a test that I did. So if we scroll up at the top here, you can see this is the prompt that I copied, the full entire prompt for Codex, which is just a massive prompt. And then down here is where you can set your model. So you do want to use ChatGPT 5.5. That is currently the smartest model in existence, in my opinion. And then I always use extra high just because I never use my usage. And I know it is just a marginal improvement, but that's just a preference that I do. I'd rather wait a few extra minutes and have a little bit higher quality than use something like medium or high. However, medium and high I've heard are pretty sufficient. So if you're trying to save some of your usage, medium or high will be just fine to use. And then another thing you can change is the speed. If you go to the speed 1.5x fast, it's going to be just as good at coding, but it's just using a little bit more compute power. And I have noticed that the speed will run through your usage quite a bit if you do that 1.5 speed fast. Like, it's not just like using 1.5 times more usage. It is probably actually using like 3 times more usage when you use that fast mode. So sometimes I use it if I'm in a rush, but most of the time I just stick to the standard speed here. And like I said, I already ran through this prompt because I don't want to sit here and wait the whole time. So it worked for 28 minutes and 5 seconds. And that actually was on the 1.5 fast speed. So it would have taken even longer, like maybe even 40 minutes to complete this full entire website. So just keep that in mind. It will take a while on that initial prompt. So I went through and it even gave me like, hey, like this is what we're thinking about building. I was like, that looks really good. Yep, sounds good to me. And then it went through and it edited and coded 2,200 lines of code. And then after it was all said and done, I said, please open this on the local host on port 3004, which it did so here. And you can actually even open this up in Codex in the sidebar. It's another really cool thing with Codex. And then you can even just interact with the web page here. And I thought this was really cool. I thought this looked actually even better than the first time I tried to generate one of these color palette websites. So it has all these different settings here and everything. And then you will have to kind of tweak it because, for example, when I first had it open on localhost, the website looked good, but nothing was like working or interacting. So I just said that the website looks good, but nothing works. And then it thought for another 5 minutes and 23 seconds and it fixed the entire website. So in my opinion, right now, in a matter of 30 minutes, this website is fully ready to launch, which is just crazy. And like I said, the idea with this process is to hopefully get enough internet traffic that you can monetize the website, maybe even put affiliate links on it or put some advertisements on it, and then make a little extra revenue. And then same thing here, if I go to my web browser, I can actually just like load this on the port that I told it, localhost, and then 3004. And here's the exact same website. Now, the real trick is how do you actually get it onto the internet itself? So I highly recommend using Cloudflare. Cloudflare is really nice because you can go and buy the domains at cost. It's not going to mess around with you like GoDaddy or Namecheap. Namecheap will really mess you around with the prices. The two websites that are really good for buying websites at cost are Porkbun and Cloudflare. And I'll run through that whole process of getting it fully hosted on the internet towards the end of the video. So this is another color palette site that I've actually already got hosted on the internet. I've already bought the domain. It was actually really easy to set up. But this is the website here. I ended up buying hubrew.app, and it's just a different variation of the color palette website that we were just looking at. A little bit different with like the moods and the different like styles and everything, but I ended up coming up with this website name, and it is fully online. If you guys want to check it out, hubrew.app. And another idea for a website is a password generator. So this is pretty simple as well. I used the exact same prompt and it ended up coming up with this entire prompt for Codex, which is again just a crazy long prompt. And we used ChatGPT Pro Extended 5.5, and this one actually worked for 48 minutes and came up with an entire website. This one, I went back and forth with it quite a bit. I did a little bit of SEO optimization already. So that's another thing you can do here. If you're unfamiliar with Codex, you can actually build new agents just by hitting this little icon here. And then you can start typing in what you want to do. And I like to kind of have it like for each agent. So this is like an SEO agent. This is a product development agent. This agent will audit the website for any problems, so stuff like that. So this one, I actually had an SEO agent here go through and do a crawl and just make sure that everything was perfect, because SEO is essential if you're putting these websites on Google and you're trying to get traffic. So this one, I came up with a site called gimme.pw. That was Claude. I think Claude was the one who helped me come up with that website name. I was like, that's pretty clever. I like it. Gimme.pw. So here's the password generator here, and it is pretty solid. It essentially can go ahead and generate different passwords, and then you can change the length. You can remove different categories here, have only lowercase letters, and then it'll change the strength depending on how long it is or how many characters are involved. And it even has a passphrase generator, and you can go ahead and go up to 12 different words. This one I actually might edit a little bit and say, hey, I want it to be like a little longer, like 32 words. You can go ahead and do that easily in Codex. Or a pin generator. And this is the same thing. I'm just planning on trying to get a little bit of traffic so that we can potentially host ads. It looks like Codex even added a spot here for potential ads when the time comes when I can get enough traffic. All right, so now to get this hosted, once you've got this fully fine-tuned and you're like, okay, this looks pretty good, I am ready to get this hosted onto the internet. Like I said, I would highly recommend using Cloudflare Pages, and Cloudflare Pages is free. It gives you 100,000 requests per month, which is just crazy for a brand new site. And if you ever need a little more usage, I think it's like $5 per month for like 10 million requests or something like that. So I would highly recommend using Cloudflare Pages. It's a little trickier to get set up, but I think it's worth it. So the first thing you'll need is to get this hosted on a GitHub page. So you can connect your Codex to GitHub, and then I would just create a private project on GitHub. So for example, I have Hubrew here that I have created a project. I've made it private on GitHub, and then I have connected GitHub using the GitHub plugin in Codex, and then I've had it commit and push the entire code base to GitHub. So once you've done that, you're pretty much ready to go on to the next step, which is Cloudflare. So in Cloudflare, you can actually buy a domain in Cloudflare itself, which is really cool. You can also buy them on Porkbun, but you're going to have to essentially get the name servers to Cloudflare in order to use Cloudflare Pages. So for example, I could search for Hubrew. That's the website that I've already got hosted, and it'll give you a bunch of different website ideas that are available. Right now, it looks like Hubrews.com is available, and the .com is going to be one of the cheapest ones at $10. And like I said, these are all at cost, so the price never changes. Every single year, you're just going to be paying $10.46, unlike places like GoDaddy, where the first year might be $10.46, but then the next year it might be $50 because GoDaddy kind of plays a bunch of different games. Namecheap's kind of similar, but both Cloudflare and Porkbun are at cost, and they don't ever mess around with like the prices like that. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different ones, and you can pick your website and then go ahead and buy it. And the one I have right now is homebrew.app, and you can see here it is not available because I own it. But anyway, once you've got your website, you can go ahead and set up Cloudflare Pages. So in the top right here, you can search for workers and pages. And you can go up to this little icon here and hit create an application. And then you're gonna wanna connect it to GitHub. So you got a GitHub connection. So you can see all of your different repositories. So right here, I've got the Hebrew one that I've already created. And then you'll go through and ask you like, all right, well, what do you wanna do? How do you want this set up? And this is where I like to just ask Codex, all right, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this and just say, hey, I wanna get Cloudflare pages set up. How can we do it? And you also wanna make sure that your GitHub project, again, is hosted and committed to GitHub and that Codex has access to that. And then you would just simply say, hey, I wanna host this in Cloudflare pages. Can you help me get this set up? And it'll go through and it'll figure out all the different options that you need to set up and deploy your website. It's gonna give you like a dummy website. So this is actually just like a dummy website. And you can go to this website. It's not the Hebrew, it's just like a dev site, and it still does work and it comes up here. But essentially what you'd want to do once you're done, once you have this fully deployed, you want to add your domain. And if you already bought the domain in Cloudflare, it's easy as just adding that website. Just say add domain, and then you'll click on the website that you want to add. And then I also added the www prefix so that people can get to it that way as well. So you just add these two, the hebrew.app and then www.hebrew.app. And then you have your site fully deployed and it's already on the internet. And like I said, this process just fully amazed me. I actually wanted to make a video about it because I was so stoked. Like, it took me like 2 days to make one of these websites and get it fully deployed and fully operational. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. If you guys have any questions on this process, let me know down below in the comments section. I'm also planning on doing some more videos on Codex as well as Hermes. Hermes is my next big project, Hermes Agent. So if any of that kind of content interests you, consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, have a wonderful day.